At the start of the story, a dead body hangs from a tree near a river in a deserted area. It's the year 1830. We then see Augustus Landor, the main character, washing his hands by the river. Landor is a retired police officer who now lives alone in a small house by the water. Some people from a military academy come to visit him. The dead body at the beginning belongs to one of their students, and they want Landor to investigate. Landor is famous for solving difficult cases and earning the respect of top city officials. Because of this, the academy's captain personally comes to his house to bring him in. At the academy office, the captain tells Landor that even the governor wants him to solve this case. Even though Landor is a great policeman, the past few years have been very hard. His wife died 3 years ago, and his daughter ran away. He feels lonely and turns to drinking to cope. The colonel knows about Landor's personal struggles and feels nervous about giving him such a big task. But Landor puts his problems aside and asks why he is called. The colonel explains that a student named Fry supposedly committed suicide the night before. But the real shock is that when Fry's body reaches the hospital, someone has removed his heart. The colonel takes Landor to the hospital where Dr. Marquis shows him the body. The doctor explains that the chest is opened with a knife and the heart is removed very cleanly. It's not an easy thing to do. Landor asks if a normal person can do it or if it needs a surgeon. The doctor says that anyone who understands the human body can remove the heart. Being a surgeon isn't necessary. Next, Landor visits the place where Fry dies. He is accompanied by the captain and the soldier who first finds the body. The soldier tells Landor that while patrolling the area, he hears screaming. When he goes to check, he finds Fry hanging from the tree. The soldier explains that Fry was hanged last night, but his feet are still touching the ground. Landor asks if anyone else was nearby. The soldier shakes his head, and Landor tells him he can go. Landor and the captain return to the hospital to take a closer look at Fry's body. Landor notices a deep wound at the back of Fry's head and scratches on his hands, probably from trying to resist while being hung. From this, Landor concludes that Fry didn't hang himself. It was clearly forced. The doctor arrives while Landor is examining the head injury. He is stunned that he missed such a serious wound earlier. Landor opens Fry's clenched hand and discovers a small piece of paper with letters written on it. The doctor is shocked that such a crucial clue went unnoticed. Landor pockets the paper, realizing it could be a key piece of the puzzle. Before he leaves, the captain stops him. He asks Landor to handle the investigation quietly, so the academy's reputation isn't damaged. He also warns Landor to avoid alcohol until the case is solved. Landor, already known in the city as a drunkard, agrees and gets ready to dive into the investigation. Landor goes back to the place where Fry's body was found to search for more clues. While he's there, a cadet named Edgar approaches. Edgar says he's been investigating Fry's death in his own way and claims that the murderer is a poet. Speaking in riddles and poetry, he leaves, leaving Landor curious. Later, Landor questions the constable who was guarding Fry's body at the hospital when the heart was stolen. The constable explains that he was on duty until 2:30 a.m. when another officer came to relieve him. It was too dark to see the officer's face. Landor is surprised. The constable also notes that the officer had no rank insignia, which is very unusual and suspicious. Landor decides to go to a bar to clear his head. He knows the bartender, Patsy, very well. Today she looks upset. When he asks why, she explains that she knew Fry closely and is heartbroken over his death. She adds that only a few people at the academy knew Fry had died. Landor is surprised and asks how she knew. Patsy points to a man sitting nearby, Edgar. Landor notices that Edgar is drunk. He asks him about the earlier claim that the killer is a poet. Edgar insists that only a poet could commit a crime like stealing someone's heart. He also says he is a poet himself and understands how a poet's mind works. As Landor prepares to leave, Edgar calls him back and reveals a secret. Fry had an argument with his roommate some time ago, but no one knows what it was about. Landor notes this carefully. The next day, Landor and the captain bring in 2 soldiers for questioning, one of whom is Fry's roommate. Landor asks about the argument. The roommate says it was never serious. He explains that Fry had gotten involved with bad influences, and he was only trying to steer him in the right direction. They disagreed over this, but the roommate doesn't know who Fry's bad friends are. Fry never told him. Landor writes down everything and lets him return to his room. Afterward, they bring in another soldier, Stoddard, who happens to be the last person to see Fry alive. When Landor questions him, Stoddard explains that Fry had been in a rush that night, sneaking away from the officers without revealing his destination. He only mentioned having some urgent business. While recounting this, Stoddard suddenly pales, which immediately raises Landor's suspicion. Seeing that Stoddard doesn't feel well, Landor allows him to leave. At that moment, an officer arrives with a message for the captain. It reports a shocking event. Someone had removed the hearts of a cow and a goat the previous night. Reading this, the captain erupts in anger and orders a full lockdown of the academy to prevent any further incidents. Despite the restrictions, Landor meets Edgar outside the Academy. Landor initially assumes Edgar knows Fry personally, but Edgar reveals he has never met him. Landor suggests they collaborate to solve the case, and Edgar quickly agrees. Landor hands Edgar the letter found in Fry's hand, asking him to decipher the incomplete words. That evening, Edgar visits Landor's house with his findings. He explains that the letter was written by the killer, who lured Fry under the pretense of some urgent task. This makes it clear that Fry trusted the person, which is why he went without hesitation. Impressed by Edgar's insight, Landor notes that some parts of the letter remain undeciphered. They spend hours together working through the text and eventually conclude that the writer is likely a woman. Their reasoning, a young man like Fry would probably sneak out at night only for a woman. Edgar shares a personal story next. He says his mother died 20 years ago, but claims her spirit still communicates with him, reciting poems that he records in his diary. One morning he writes a poem about a sorrowful girl who commits a crime. Later that day he spots a girl outside his window who matches the description in his poem. Convinced she could be the killer, he shares this with Landor, who finds it difficult to believe and begins questioning Edgar's sanity. Later that night, Landor talks with the bartender Patsy about Edgar. She reassures him, explaining that Edgar is a kind-hearted boy with no family, which is why he clings to the memory of his mother. Landor feels a pang of sympathy for Edgar, understanding the loneliness he must endure. The next day, while inspecting the hospital, Landor wonders why someone would keep a human heart. He begins to suspect the murders might involve black magic. He writes to Edgar, arranging a meeting at an abandoned house. There, Landor finds signs of dark rituals and a demonic symbol, realizing that the killer has been using hearts from both humans and animals for sinister purposes. When Edgar arrives, Landor explains the discovery. They decide to consult a friend knowledgeable in black magic. The friend instructs Landor to retrieve a book by a famous witch hunter. It details dark rituals, including one requiring the heart of a hanged man as an offering to the devil. He also mentions Henry Clare, a renowned witch hunter who eliminated hundreds of witches and documented a ritual for immortality, though the location of the second book is unknown. Landor tasks Edgar with befriending the soldiers to learn who knows about black magic. Edgar succeeds and discovers that the doctor's son, Artemis, possesses knowledge in this area. Using an excuse, Edgar becomes friends with Artemis, who later invites him to a party. Edgar informs Landor, and together they plan their next move. At the party, Edgar charms Artemis's friends with poetry, gathering information. He learns that both Artemis and his companion Bellinger were close to Fry. He also discovers that Fry was in love with Artemis's sister, who ultimately betrayed him, adding complexity to the mystery. Meanwhile, Landor experiences a personal haunting moment. While sleeping, he hears a child crying and discovers his own daughter weeping. She vanishes before he can reach her, leaving him devastated. Memories of his daughter's disappearance often trigger such emotional episodes. The next morning, at Fry's funeral, Fry's mother approaches Landor and hands him Fry's diary, hoping it will aid the investigation. Landor opens it and finds that it is written in a secret code. Deciphering it will be difficult, but he immediately begins working to unlock its secrets, determined to uncover the truth about Fry's murder. Meanwhile, Edgar befriends Artemis's sister Leah, the same girl he had noticed outside his window the morning he was writing the poem his mother had suggested. Curious about her, Edgar arranges to meet Leah at a secluded spot so he can study her behavior. But the moment he sees her delicate features, her innocence, and gentle demeanor, Edgar realizes he is falling deeply in love with her. Suddenly, Leah collapses, suffering a violent epileptic seizure. She writes in pain on the ground, leaving Edgar terrified and panicked. He doesn't know what to do, fearing for her life. But after a tense few moments, Leah regains consciousness and recovers on her own. The incident shakes Edgar, but also strengthens his resolve to protect her. Meanwhile, Landor, after tirelessly working through Fry's diary, finally decodes the mysterious writing. That very night, as Edgar returns from the academy, he senses a strange presence nearby. He scans the shadows, but there is no one in sight. Suddenly, Ballinger jumps out and attacks Edgar, threatening him to stay away from Leah. It turns out Ballinger is also in love with Leah and resents Edgar for drawing near her. Before the fight can escalate further, Landor arrives, overpowers Ballinger, and drives him away. Enraged, Edgar warns Landor that if Ballinger ever interferes with his relationship with Leah, he will not hesitate to kill him. Landor, maintaining his calm, soothes Edgar and explains the situation rationally, reminding him to stay in control. The next morning, Landor receives shocking news from the captain. Ballinger has disappeared. Alarmed, Landor joins the captain and several soldiers to search for him. After a brief investigation, they discover Ballinger hanging, eerily similar to Fry's case, with his heart brutally removed from his chest. At the hospital, Dr. Marquis informs the colonel and the captain that Ballinger's murder is the work of a different killer. He explains that the wounds on Ballinger's chest differ significantly from Fry's. And in a horrifying twist, the murderer has also rendered Ballinger impotent. Furious, the colonel questions Landor's capabilities, scolding him for failing to uncover solid evidence despite his efforts. Meanwhile, the captain tells Landor that Edgar has become a prime suspect. Apparently, at dinner the previous night, Edgar openly discussed his fight with Ballinger and even threatened him in front of other soldiers. Landor defends Edgar, insisting he is a good-hearted boy who, despite his temper, would never commit murder. The captain surprises Landor further by revealing that Edgar had also clashed with Fry last summer. The colonel adds that Edgar would have been arrested long ago if evidence existed against him. Shocked by this revelation, Landor confronts Edgar directly, pressing him for answers. Edgar admits that, since joining the academy, he has fought many boys who mocked his appearance or personality, but he never allowed anger to turn into revenge. Landor, reassured by Edgar's honesty, believes in his innocence. Later that evening, Dr. Marquise hosts a dinner at his home to mourn Ballinger's death, inviting both Edgar and Landor. During the meal, Artemis, suspicious that Landor may have searched his room, rudely insults Landor. This angers his mother, who storms out, and Leah follows shortly after. The doctor apologizes to Landor for his family's behavior and offers to prepare a drink to lighten the mood. While doing so, Landor notices a magical book on a shelf, which raises his suspicions about the doctor. Curious, Landor questions the doctor about Leah's health. The doctor reluctantly reveals that his daughter suffers from a dangerous illness that forces her to live in constant fear. Leah hasn't married yet, and while she and Edgar are talking, Artemis arrives, calling them to hear Leah play the piano. Edgar, however, is so captivated by her music that he loses track of everything else. He is completely entranced by Leah's talent, and it's clear his love for her has grown so deep that he would do anything to protect her. Landor, on the other hand, claims he wants some fresh air, using the opportunity to slip away unnoticed and search Artemis's room. Inside Artemis's room, Landor discovers a coat that has no rank insignia on its shoulders. Immediately, he recalls that the Academy guard had mentioned an officer who had granted leave wore a coat just like this. Before he can investigate further, Mrs. Marquis enters and is equally surprised to see the coat. Landor brings it downstairs, and the doctor explains that it belongs to his deceased brother, claiming he doesn't know how it ended up in the house. Landor, however, insists that the coat was discovered in Artemis' room, adding a new layer of suspicion. Before Artemis can respond, the captain arrives with alarming news. Another soldier, Stoddard, is missing. Stoddard is the same boy who last saw Fry alive and had nervously given a statement to Landor. Without wasting time, Landor joins the captain and the soldiers to inspect Stoddard's room. After a thorough search, Landor concludes that Stoddard wasn't kidnapped. He ran away voluntarily. All his belongings are gone, suggesting he fled out of fear. Landor speculates that Stoddard, Fry, and Ballinger were close friends, and witnessing the brutal deaths of Fry and Ballinger terrified Stoddard into escaping before he became the next victim. With the mysterious coat found in Artemis's room, suspicion naturally falls on him. Yet Landor lacks concrete evidence linking Artemis to the killings. He requests more time from the colonel to continue gathering proof before drawing any conclusion. Meanwhile, Edgar seizes a private moment with Leah, reciting the heartfelt poem he had written for her. Moved by his words, Leah takes him out for a walk, deepening their bond. Meanwhile, Landor investigates further, visiting his friend to learn more about Henry L. Cleric, the man who wrote the book on immortality. Shockingly, he discovers that Cleric was a devil worshipper. Landor is shown a portrait of Cleric, which suddenly triggers a memory. He had seen this painting before, hanging in the doctor's house near a book of black magic, presumably authored by Cleric himself. Convinced now that the doctor's entire family is behind the string of mysterious events plaguing the city, Landor presses further. He takes the magic book in his hands and confirms that it is indeed Cleric's work. Terrified, the doctor is forced to confess everything. He reveals that Leah suffers from a terminal illness and has only about 3 months to live. Desperate, he had tried every treatment, but nothing worked. One day, Leah claimed that her ancestor, Henry L. Cleric, had communicated with her and shared a secret ritual that could grant her immortality. After performing part of the ritual, Leah began showing signs of recovery, prompting her entire family to assist in completing it. As the doctor explains all this to Landor, a chilling scene unfolds elsewhere. Leah, accompanied by her mother and brother, is completing the ritual in an old house. Edgar, now unconscious, has been brought there, and Leah prepares to offer his heart to the devil as part of the ceremony. Her mother and brother fully support her action. She already possesses Fry's heart, which she presents to the devil, then drips Edgar's blood on her forehead and begins reciting the spell, sealing the dark and horrifying ritual. Meanwhile, after interrogating the doctor, Landor realizes that Leah and Artemis are planning to kill Edgar. Without hesitation, he sprints toward the house. At the same time, Edgar opens his eyes, though he remains weak and semi-conscious. He understands Leah's deadly intentions, but his love for her is so intense that he is willing to sacrifice himself to keep her alive. Leah continues chanting the dark spell, stepping closer to remove Edgar's heart. Just as she is about to strike, Landor bursts into the room. Shock and fear ripple across all three of them. Leah and Artemis brandish a knife, warning Landor to stay back. In the chaos, a candle topples and ignites the house. Flames quickly spread, and the situation spirals out of control. A fierce struggle erupts between Artemis and Landor. Meanwhile, Leah persists in her spell, oblivious to the danger. Suddenly, a burning beam crashes down on her, severely injuring her. Artemis, panicked, rushes to save his sister. Seizing the opportunity, Landor grabs Edgar and drags him out of the fiery house. In the mayhem, parts of the burning structure collapse onto Artemis and his mother. Landor manages to rescue the doctor's wife, but tragically, Leah and Artemis are engulfed in flames and reduced to ashes. Edgar, witnessing Leah's death, is overwhelmed with grief and shock. He is taken safely to the Academy Hospital. Meanwhile, it comes to light that Dr. Marquis had already resigned. The captain and the colonel personally thank Landor for unraveling the mystery and apologize for ever doubting his abilities. After fulfilling his duty, Landor finally returns home, though the story is far from over. A few days later, a fully recovered Edgar arrives at Landor's house, visibly furious. He claims to have discovered something crucial regarding Landor's daughter's death. Stepping inside, Edgar confronts Landor with the revelation that the handwriting on the letter he once sent matches the handwriting on the note found in Fry's hand. This shocking evidence indicates that Landor had written the letter and deliberately lured Fry to his death. Determined to uncover the truth, Edgar begins investigating. He learns from Patsy that one night when Landor's daughter was returning from a party, she had been brutally assaulted by 3 rogue cadets from the academy. Connecting the dots, Edgar realizes that Fry was one of the perpetrators. Yet Edgar wants to hear the full story directly from Landor, now that he has already uncovered so much. Landor finally reveals everything. His daughter had not run away. Overwhelmed by the trauma of the horrific crime, she had tragically taken her own life by leaping off a mountain. Seeking justice, Landor had been hunting the culprits in secret. He had already received Fry's locket from his daughter, confirming Fry's involvement. To exact revenge, Landor had written a letter in Patsy's name, luring Fry out of the academy. He knocked him unconscious with his weapon and later hanged him from a tree. Landor had tried to extract the names of the other 2 accomplices, but Fry refused to disclose them. When Landor heard someone approaching, he was forced to flee. Fate seemed to aid Landor. That same night, the doctor had taken Fry's heart for a black magic ritual. It felt as if the universe itself was assisting Landor in punishing his daughter's attackers. The colonel, unaware of Landor's true intentions, had chosen him to investigate Fry's death. Taking advantage of the situation, Landor cleverly disguised his revenge as a case of black magic. He manipulated the doctor's family, already obsessed with supernatural beliefs, making the entire ordeal appear as a sinister, mystical event rather than a calculated act of justice. By carefully orchestrating every step, Landor had avenged his daughter while maintaining the facade of an unsolvable, supernatural mystery, leaving only a handful of people aware of the grim truth behind the murders. Landor personally removes the hearts of animals. While deciphering Fry's diary, he uncovers the name of the second culprit, Ballinger. Without hesitation, he kills Ballinger and extracts his heart as well, making it look like another sinister, black magic ritual, similar to Fry's death. Landor has already forced Ballinger to disclose the identity of the third accomplice, Stoddard. But before Landor can act, Stoddard panics and escapes from the academy. Edgar confronts Landor, questioning why Stoddard hasn't faced punishment. Landor responds that he no longer has the resolve to commit another killing. All he hopes is that wherever Stoddard hides, he bears the weight of his guilt for the rest of his life. Through this method, Landor executes his revenge with remarkable cunning, simultaneously deceiving the entire military academy. He feels no remorse because every action he takes is driven by love for his daughter. Yet Edgar's heart remains broken over Leah's tragic death. Initially, he plans to present Landor's letters to the colonel as proof. However, he quickly realizes that such punishment could never truly atone for the horrors inflicted on Landor's daughter. With that realization, Edgar burns the letters, destroying the evidence entirely. In the aftermath, Landor is left with nothing but the memories of his beloved daughter. Ultimately, he ascends to the peak of the mountain, standing silently, as if reconnecting with his family and spirit. The movie ends here.